Hi, this is Margo. This is Sunday evening, September the 18th, 2022. I hope everyone is safe and doing as well as possible. And Sunday night again, we made it through another week. It's getting more difficult all the time, it seems like. We had a lot of smoke in our area, in the Reno area this week from California wildfires, and we had a break from it today, so that was nice, but it's, didn't go away. So anyway, I'm kind of reacting to all of that, but I'd like to welcome everyone to the show tonight. This will be my weekly update that I'll be putting on YouTube. We're going to go over methane, sea ice, climate-related items, and some earthquakes, and just, do an overview of the planet. So first of all, I wanted to start out, we have not reached the minimum extent yet on the Arctic sea ice. This is from the Great White Con website. Here's their thread on Arctic sea ice minimum extent, and here we are. We're in the middle. It's not the lowest and it's not the highest extent that we've had. But I wanted to show they've got the end of August numbers, and this little note here. This was an edit that was done just a few days ago, September 14th, and it says JAXA and NSIDC daily extent are both still declining, so 2022 is certainly not going to deliver the earliest minimum in the satellite record. The areas of open water north of 85 degrees are freezing over, and that's up here. And it says, however, according to AWI's high-resolution AMSR2 metric, overall Central Arctic extent is still declining, so perhaps we will have to wait a while longer for this year's minimum. So we've got some kind of growing back and other kind of declining. Now, the Navy website, U.S. Navy website, has been down for 2 days, so we don't have any recent data from them. And National Snow and Ice Data Center, no data for the last 2 days for the Arctic or the Antarctic. But I do have all their latest stuff, so that's just a heads up on that. So we still, it's here we are, September the 18th. It's right around the time when typically we would be reaching minimum extent. So why are all these things offline when this is like kind of a critical time to have it online, makes you kind of wonder. So anyway, we're going to start out with Climate Reanalyzer. This is the 2-meter air temperature for today, and we're seeing some colder airs coming in over the Arctic basin and the north part of Greenland, and we still have a lot of air that's like in the greens, and even like this deep green, which is 5C. And things are cooling off overall worldwide. We still have some whites, which is 40C or higher, or around 100 degrees or higher, here in the central U.S., here in South America, here across Africa, Saudi Arabia, Iran, a little bit of India, Australia, you've got whites. So, overall, we're going into fall. We're about to have the fall equinox. I'm not sure when it is, next day or two. Anyway, that will be the official beginning of fall and moving into to our cooler temps. Here's 2-meter temperature anomaly for today, and look at Greenland. The north end is blue, so cooler than normal, and the bottom 2/3 is like a chili pepper, red and brown. We've got browns coming up through Canada, Alaska, and then over this whole west side of the Arctic Ocean. And then we've got browns over Russia here, browns down through Canada, and here we can see that what had been brown here in the western U.S. has now moved east. So you've got browns further east, and now we've got some blues. I'm right on the edge of the blue. So temperatures have cooled way down this week, which is really good. We're more in range with our average temps for this time of year. Here's the flat view. Look down here in southern Russia, that deep brown. And so on. Worldwide, we're at 0.3C, higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is up 0.8C. The Arctic is up 1.2C. The Antarctic is down 1C. The southern hemisphere is down 0.2C. And the tropics are up 0.1C, higher than normal. Here's precipitation and clouds. Now, there's been a big storm here in the Bering Strait and the Bering Sea, across Alaska and Siberia for the last, 2 or 3 days. So, it's still raining up there, but it's a lot less. But it was pretty catastrophic for these coastlines of Alaska, with a lot of flooding. They're not used to rain up there like this, especially this time of year. We're also seeing rain here around Greenland, and it's been raining in this Baffin Bay or around the southern tip of Greenland all week. And so we've had late melting of this ice sheet. I'll show you that tonight too. As a result of this rain, we've also got rain coming up along Norway and Russia and sea on land here in northern Russia, which is not good for the permafrost because that thaws out all of that permafrost. I mean, it is good if you're trying to put out wildfires, but if you're worried about permafrost thawing, then rain is not what you want. Here are the jet loops, and we've got this high pressure system right here over the North Pole. And then we've got this low set up here in the Beaufort Sea. Here's our low over the Bering Strait. That's 983 millibars there. And then big loops. See the big loops, and that's where the cold air swoops out. And big loops on this east side too, and broken in the southern hemisphere too. And well, we'll look more at sea ice and snow cover in a minute. Here's sea surface temperature anomaly. This is for yesterday. We've got browns still throughout this Arctic region. A little bit of blue here in the Barents Sea. And we're still seeing reds in this North Atlantic, just off the coast of Newfoundland. And that's a blob there. It's going down a little bit, but it's still pretty bad. Look at all these browns. The whole Atlantic from the equator up is some shade of brown. Here's the Pacific. Again, in the northern hemisphere, it's almost solid brown, and then some reds. And here's the blob in the northwest Pacific, and another hot spot right in the central part in the northern Pacific. And look at this in the tropics and coming across the Pacific there. Worldwide, we're up 0.4 C higher than normal. The northern hemisphere is up 0.8 C. North Atlantic is up 1.1 C. North Pacific is up 0.7 C. Southern hemisphere is up 0.2 C. And the equatorial Pacific is down 0.3 C. That's this blue area, equatorial Pacific, that's cooler than normal. So we saw that. Alright, now we'll move on to methane. we're going to look at the NOAA data for yesterday, the 17th. This is the AM reading for the MET-OP-B or MET-OP-1 satellite, and we're tracking this 469 millibar layer. The mean or average was 1947 parts per billion. The high reading was 2419. In the afternoon, look, it jumped up. The mean was 1949 and the high reading was 2496. Here's our chart spreadsheet. So the 17th averaged out to be 1948 parts per billion. And that gives us an increase this week of 1.5. And last week we increased 1.5. And so here we can see the line still going up. And we're almost at this halfway mark between these two lines, between 1940 and 1960. We're almost at the 1950. And we're growing closer to the end of this methane warming season. Usually we'll peak out around the first week in October. We'll see. It may go a little longer this year just because we got kind of a late start. Alright. So we're 16.5 parts per billion higher than this time a year ago. And we're 78.5 parts per billion higher than when I started all this March 1st, 2019. So that's quite an increase. And see, in the winter times, when it goes down, it never goes down to the where it was the year before. So we're on this perpetual trend of upward. Let's see what happened this week. Here we were in the show last Sunday. So for the 10th, we were at 1946.5. And then the 11th, we went up 1 part per billion. And on the 12th, we went down 0.5. The 13th, we went up 0.5. On the 14th, we went up 1.5. On the 15th, no change. And 16th, we went down 0.5. And the 17th, we went down 0.5. Giving us an overall increase this week of 1.5. Now I wanted to show, let's see, on here the 15th, our readings, the two readings, morning and afternoon. The morning reading here was 1948 and the afternoon reading was 1950, and so that's that 1950, that's the highest we've seen for the mean so far ever. I mean, since, because we're setting records all the time. And on that day, we were 19.5 parts per billion higher than a year ago. and you see these NAs on yearly change. It was about this time last year when NOAA was having trouble with the Met-Op-2 satellite, and the data was missing a lot. And they finally ended up retiring the data from the Met-Op-2. And that's when we went to just the Met-Op-1. So that's why you see some NAs there. We just didn't have complete data there, even for the Met-Op-1. So that's where we are with methane, at least on NOAA. Now we'll look at CAMS. This is the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services website. We're going to look at Saturday the 17th, Arctic view and surface level. Here's our color ledger. So we went up 1.5 this week, 1.5 the week before. So the data is for Saturday and the forecast period is Sunday through Wednesday. And we're still seeing some hot spots on Iceland. Oh, we had an earthquake up by Svalbard today. We'll look at that. Look at this West Russia area and Finland, and then Norway, Sweden too. They keep kind of phasing in and out. And Russia, and then Alaska. So we'll see now that Alaska got a bunch of rain. We'll see in the next day or two if the methane just skyrockets up there. And we're going to be seeing more rain and more storms here in the Arctic. I'm thinking year-round. And because it's warmer, it's just warmer, and so you're going to have rain instead of snow if it's warmer a lot of times. And still coming up here at CAMS. It's really gone down quite a bit. It's not even billowing, it's just kind of percolating. So we've got percolating, we've got billowing, and hemorrhaging. Those three terms that I made up for degrees of methane release, at least at CAMS. And right now it's just percolating. There's quite a bit in Canada. Now there's fires up here too. There's North Dakota. Now we'll look at the North Pole view. Uh-oh. Did that wrong. That's Europe. Here we go. Look at this. See this coming off of China. Now, this has just been kind of blobby and past the coastline, you know, out of the ocean, kind of all week. And so I don't know what's going on there at China, but it's awful. Look at it. Just wave after wave of the dark stuff, and then the red moving out. Look at that. And you can see that white spot that's at Beijing. It's just popping up intermittently. Here's India. There's Pakistan. There's the Persian Gulf. Here's Germany. It's filled up. There's the UK, Ireland. And then the US. This whole east side. Look at that. And Florida's pretty blobby. See the waves. These greenish waves moving out all around. That's a sign of very high methane. You see the waves march around like that. Okay. Now we'll go to the global view. See, here's the white spot popping up. Watch, right where my pointer is. That's at Beijing, and that's above the 10,000 parts per billion, which is the highest range. See, right there. So our overall background color for the southern hemisphere is still this 1860 reading, parts per billion. We've got more of this darker blue coming in the Pacific, and so that's a lower reading of 1840. But we've got all kinds of greens, and that green is the main background color for the northern hemisphere. Any shade of green, from like this dark green, which is about 1920, and then this yellow green, which is about 2,000 parts per billion. There's that. And we'll go to 500 HPA. Look at this. Here's a big wide swath of the darker across Russia, and then here in that's western Russia, and moving on over towards Germany there. And then total column. And see, the highest is here around China. Even that arm that's streaming out is in the darker range. India, Saudi Arabia. So there's that. Now let's go through these pictures. Here's the smoke over North America today, and here it is. Just the wind is blowing it north of Reno today, so we lucked out, but it's not done. And then more smoke. Here, this is Wyoming, Idaho and Wyoming, and then up into Canada, and then this northeast US. There's quite a bit of smoke over there. Also down here, just south of Texas, in Mexico. And here's sulfur dioxide. Now we've got, this is interesting to me, this little spot here just below Australia. It's in between Australia and the Antarctic, right around the Antarctic plate line. And you see how that's well defined, pretty well defined, and it's in the shape of an exclamation point, with the narrow end down here and the wider end up here. Now I found this shape of sulfur dioxide release related to upcoming earthquake movement. As the rocks are shifting right before the earthquake happens, it'll just shoot up sulfur dioxide sometimes if there's a pocket there, and it goes right up to 500 HPA is what I found. And here's 500 HPA, and it's still pretty well defined. Here it's kind of curved. So now this is an area that's had earthquakes in the past. All the plate lines have earthquakes sooner or later. But we'll be watching for an earthquake down here. This is showing plate movement, I think. Here's the ozone hole over the Antarctic. We can see it's now formed. Huge hole over most of the continent, and everything inside this black line is in the danger zone. And we're even going down 4 levels of thinness here, even down this little part here of the dark navy blue. The next color down on the chart is black, and so we'll see if it gets down to black or even white. But this is like this purplish color, bluish purple, is 200 to 220 Dobson units, and then it goes down from there. And then this dark navy blue is 125 to 150 Dobson units. Quite thin. Here's the Arctic ozone, and it's still thinning down here. Look here, next to Iceland, Greenland, and then here in the North Atlantic coming across to Russia, and then here's a whole, this is where what's left of the thicker sea ice. It's right over that, and Beaufort Sea, and here northern Canada, and coming across. Now there are 2 things that will eat up the ozone that we have a lot of right now, and it's smoke and methane. So those 2 things will just cause huge holes in the ozone layer. Look at this break coming up to Brazil and the Atlantic. And we've got, look at all these greens. That's all thin. So where you see like this solid yellow color, that's 300 Dobson units. And that's considered to be a good layer. Then we've got up into reds, so that goes up. And then when you start going into the greens, it's getting under 300 Dobson units. And I'll show you the earthquake pictures I took today. 263 worldwide. Here is our one by Svalbard. Taiwan had 2 7s, but they got downgraded to 6s in the last 2 days. And we've got a swarm going in Southern California. I'll show you that in a minute. So right here, here's Australia, here's Antarctica. Right down here on this plate line is where we saw the sulfur dioxide coming up just now. And so in the next day or 2, we'll be looking to see if an earthquake happens here. Here's some 5s. See, we've got quite a few 5s, and then these are all 4s. Here's this 4.3 just next to Svalbard, right on the red line. That's the tectonic plate line. This is in the Fram Strait that runs between Svalbard and Greenland. This came in at 10:42 this morning, Pacific time. Here's Taiwan. There have been 11 in this picture in the last 24 hours. Now they usually don't report on anything under, I think, a 4 or 4.5 internationally. Rarely will they. So these are large aftershocks. And then this 6.9, this came in last night at 11:44 p.m. 6.9. Here's Alaska, and they're at a 4.5 here in central Alaska. That's kind of a higher magnitude than what we normally see there. Here's at Yellowstone, a 3.9, Mammoth, Wyoming. So that's a higher register too. Then this is in Southern California, at Thermal, California. 3.5 was the largest one, and we've had 51 down here in the last 24 hours. So this is swarming. So we'll keep watching that. That's all of those. Now, we'll move on to sea ice. We're going to start with Climate Reanalyzer with our slideshow here. And these are images that I download every day as part of my research. This is sea ice and snow cover, and see, it's still collapsing here in the Beaufort Sea. There's just a little bit of wispy ice left. Then it's coming apart pretty far in around these edges here, and this little arm that's reaching up across to Russia. I think this is the area that they said is having some regrowth or refreeze. But these other areas are still melting. So let's go through, see what happened this week. Here we were last Sunday, the 11th. So I'll just click through. Here's the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and here we are today. So there's that. Now, the latest Navy data was from the 15th, which was what day was the 15th? Thursday. And this is Arctic sea ice thickness, so 4 days ago, or 3 days ago. And we're still seeing this hole here above the North Pole, and this what's left of the thicker sea ice is still shrinking, kind of compressing and spreading out and coming apart. We're seeing more and more leads open up in this sea ice. You'll see when we look at NASA Worldview today. And where it's this light lavender, it's very poor ice, a lot of open water, and not good concentration. And I don't even know why they have this on here. I mean, it looks to me like this Beaufort Sea is just pretty much open, just a little bit of wispy. Not all of that, but anyway. So here's a 30-day animation. Let's see when this was updated to. This was updated to the 14th. So the forecast goes out to the 21st, which is only 3 days away. And we're also seeing this ice just pretty much migrating down. And see, it pulls away from the coastline, and it's not anchored in once it pulls away. And so it's more susceptible to all of the elements if it's not land fast. It's more susceptible to being tossed around and pulled apart due to wind and waves and sea ice drift and all of that. And we still see the extent shrinking here. There's that. And here's the Beaufort sea ice thickness. This was updated on the 15th. And here's Alaska. And I'm talking about this is just wispy ice. Just barely there. Here's Canada. And the 30-day animation, and this was updated to the 15th. So the forecast goes out to the 22nd. And according to this model, you can see the ice is still shrinking down on extent-wise. And we're starting to see it thickening back up here in the forecast period. See the aqua popping in. There's that. Here's the Antarctic. This is as of the 15th. And here it's still growing just a tiny bit on the extent. We're seeing thicker ice now. It's thickening up here in the Weddell Sea and around this western peninsula coastline up into aquas and greens. And then we've got blues and purples for almost everything else. And the 30-day animation. And forecast goes out to the 21st here. So it's about to reach its maximum extent. So we're watching that. And I've got a more recent image for that. Here's the latest, or the last data from National Snow and Ice Data Center. This was for the 15th. Which was Thursday. Arctic sea ice concentration. See all these blues. And just this little area has white, which means it's put together well. And here it was on the 15th for extent. And see, it's still going down, still melting. And here's the Antarctic for the 15th. And here's the refreeze. And we can see it's still going up this year. And it was already headed down this time last year. But last year it maxed out around the end of August. And then it started coming down. Alright, that's all of those I wanted to show there. And then, here's what we've got today on the National Snow and Ice Data Center website for the 17th, and no data. They've got Greenland data though. How can they have Greenland data but no Arctic or Antarctic data for 2 days? Now they're showing, they've got the date, the 17th, but I don't see any change. So it's just there. And Antarctic, no data. And now here, this line is kind of going flat. So that's definitely different for the 17th than what we saw on the 15th. So it may have peaked out. We'll see. And then, oh, meant to show Greenland. Hold on. I'll go get it. Okay, I'm back. I had so many of these open, I didn't know which was which. So here's the Greenland melt for yesterday, the 17th. And we've got a huge wide band of melting on the southwestern edge in the salmon color. And that's because it's been raining around there. And here are the cumulative melt days. Wherever it's white, that's the area that's not melted. Not even one day that they registered. But look at these other areas. And this western edge, see, it's going up into around 90 days of melting or more, and a couple of spots up here on the north end too. Here's their chart, melt extent. So we can see the spike here. That was around the first part of September, and you know, it's come down, but it's still melting. And right now it looks like we're at about 7 or 8% melt, and we're above the median, which is this flat dotted blue line. So typically, you know, Greenland should be done with its melt by now, or soon. But it's still going. As long as there's rain up there, it's going to be melting. That's all of those. Now, we'll go to NASA Worldview. And we'll start here in the Arctic. Here's this sea ice concentration layer. And we'll turn on the blue marble layer. So let's see what happened this week. Wherever you see colors, it's either melting or refreezing. So, I don't know. So here we were last Sunday on the 11th. So there was more melt going on last Sunday. See all the reds and the hole there. But let's click through and see what happened this week. So here's Monday. So look at all the melting going on here. Here's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then today, and so still a lot of melting going on in this little arm and on the north side. And you know, this little wispy ice here in the Beaufort Sea, it may hang on. We'll just see. So we'll turn our clouds back on. Turn off that layer. And let's go in. Now see the black dot or circle? This is where it's starting to go dark. Right at the North Pole. With the sun going down. So the sun is at an angle, and so we may see shadows, we may see kind of unusual colors like these shades of aqua. Here's the nearest strait. Here's the Baffin Bay. See, that's open. So here's the rain. The rain today. So here's the ice sheet here. Okay, see the melt ponds? See these circles? So this is where the ice is melted, and it's just the water is sitting on top of the ice below it. And it's called melt ponds. There's some more, see? Let's move on. Here's Ellesmere Island. There's a coastline. Now, see all these leads? These are the cracks opening up. This is that thicker ice. What's left of the thicker sea ice, and you can see it's coming apart. The leads are opening up. So it'll just have to close up. Here's Canada. See this ice. Here's the Beaufort Sea. Got a cloud here. Let's go back. Still can't see a lot. But you get the idea. Here's the wispy little arm of ice. It's just barely there. And then here's some more. That's the 15th. Here's the 16th. Okay, here's the ice edge. That's a pretty good view. And 17th. And today the 18th. Okay. So here's this storm over Alaska and Siberia. This is the rain. And then moving on to the north, here's Russia. Here's New Siberian Islands. Lots of clouds, but you can see the coastlines are open. Here's some ice. One little lone area hanging on by itself. And then here's the arm reaching across. Here's Severnalia Zemlya. Here's this Vovolov ice cap. So it's still pouring into the ocean. See the white there? That's the ice. Here's Komsomolets. Here's the ice. And then look down here. This is, see, look at all that open water. There's a lot. And then here's another area where it's coming apart. Here's another area. So this line right here is 80 degrees north latitude. So this melting here is well within 80 degrees. In fact, it's like 88 degrees north latitude. And that's all open. Let's see if we can see anything else here. Here's Greenland. Let's go back. Here's yesterday. Can't see much. And here's today. And here, looking through the clouds, you can see the ice breaking up. So it doesn't look like to me that we're going to have a blue ocean event this year, but you never know. You never know. Okay, now we'll go to the Antarctic, and this black dot's getting smaller as the sun is coming up down here. So we're going to start right up here, trying to find A76. Here he is, this iceberg. We've been tracking this iceberg. There are two little islands right here that this iceberg was going to just run over, but somehow it mysteriously changed from counterclockwise to clockwise direction. And see, now it's almost straight up and down. Here's the sea ice. See, it's well beyond the sea ice. And here's the Western Peninsula. Here's the Weddell Sea. So the thicker ice is kind of following this Western Peninsula. Here's the Weddell Sea here. See, here's some holes. And here's the Brunt ice shelf. Hard to see much here. And the north end. Here's the east side. Here's the Amory ice shelf. And here's the Totem Glacier. We're tracking that. Let's go back. So here it was on the 16th. There's just a little bit of cloud there. Now this had open water around it. It looks like it's refreezing though. And here's the Ross Sea. There's the sea ice. Here's Mount Erebus right there. McMurdo's research station is right there on that tippy point. So let's go back to today. See, weird colors. That's what I mean. Here's the Weddell ice shelf. I mean, not Weddell. Ross ice shelf. And then, right down here, we've got an excellent view of Thwaites Glacier today. Here's a little bit of a cloud, but for the most part, we can see it. See, it looks bumpy, and that's the ice where it's smooth. This is where it refroze. The water refroze in between these pieces of ice. Now, this crack, see, it's coming down along here. And this has a very long tongue. But there's the ice. Here's Pine Island Glacier. And, wait, it's up here. I got lost. Let's see. Yesterday. Can't really see much. So that's cloud covered. So there's that. Now we'll take a peek at earthquakes. We've got 266 worldwide now. Let's go to Taiwan. What have they got? 12 here. And these are 5s and 4s, and that's 6.9. And let's go to 7 days, all magnitudes. And here in this area, this Taiwan area, they've had 22 this week. And see, that was on land that those 6s happened, so there had to have been damage. I don't track all the stories. I just know when you have a 6.5 or a 6.9 on land, you're going to have some damage. And here was the 6.5 that came in yesterday at 6:41 in the morning. And see, 5s and 4s. So pretty good sized aftershocks there. Okay. So worldwide, let's see, we've had 1,914 earthquakes worldwide this week. And there was a big one down here at Papua New Guinea. No, sorry, not Papua. 7.0 Isengel, Vanuatu. That came in on the 14th. So I think those are the biggest ones for this week. Then let's look here in the US. Here on this Juan de Fuca plate, we've got movement up here on the plate. Here was a 4.4 and 2.6 just west of it. And then we've got activity here on this fulcrum point. And quite a bit of movement in this Cascadia area. And then here at Yellowstone, 25 this week. 3.9. Yeah, that was the largest one. And then let's go down here, Southern California. So here's this thermal region, and so this last week they've gotten 70 earthquakes in this region, and we saw 51 just in the last 24 hours. So there's that. Look at all of this. It's just everywhere. So that's my report for tonight. We're just documenting everything coming apart, at least climate-wise, and we'll bring it back to a spiritual focus. We've been reading out of the Book of Wisdom, which is a book in the Apocrypha. It was one of the books that, well, it was considered, but was not put in the official Bible. But this is written by King Solomon. Wisdom chapter 19. As for the ungodly, wrath came upon them without mercy unto the end, for he knew before what they would do, how that having given them leave to depart, and sent them hastily away, they would repent and pursue them. For whilst they were yet mourning and making lamentation at the graves of the dead, they added another foolish device, and pursued them as fugitives whom they had entreated to be gone. For the destiny whereof they were worthy drew them unto this end, and made them forget the things that had already happened, that they might fulfill the punishment which was wanting to their torments. And that thy people might pass a wonderful way, but they might find a strange death. For the whole creature in his proper kind was fashioned again anew, serving the peculiar commandments that were given unto them, that thy children might be kept without hurt, as namely a cloud shadowing the camp, and where water stood before dry land appeared, and out of the Red Sea a way without impediment, and out of the violent stream a green field, where through all the people went that were defended with thy hand, seeing thy marvelous strange wonders. For they went at large like horses, and leaped like lambs, praising thee, O Lord, who hast delivered them. For they were yet mindful of the things that were done, while they sojourned in the strange land, how the ground brought forth flies instead of cattle, and how the river cast up a multitude of frogs instead of fishes. But afterwards they saw a new generation of fowls, when, being led with their appetite, they asked delicate meats. For quails came up unto them from the sea for their contentment. And punishments came upon the sinners, not without former signs, by the force of thunders, for they suffered justly according to their own wickedness, insomuch as they used a more hard and hateful behavior toward strangers. For the Sodomites did not receive those whom they knew not when they came, but these brought friends into bondage that had well deserved of them. And not only so, but peradventure some respect shall be had of those, because they use strangers not friendly. But these very grievously afflicted them, whom they had received with feastings, and were already made partakers of the same laws with them. Therefore, even with blindness were these stricken, as those were at the doors of the righteous man, when, being compassed about with horrible great darkness, every one sought the passage of his own doors. For the elements were changed in themselves by a kind of harmony, like as in a psaltery notes change the name of the tune, and yet are always sounds, which may well be perceived by the sight of the things that have been done. For earthly things were turned into watery, and the things that before swam in the water now went upon the ground. The fire had power in the water, forgetting his own virtue, and the water forgat his own quenching nature. On the other side, the flames wasted not the flesh of the corruptible living things, though they walked therein, neither melted they the icy kind of heavenly meat that was of nature apt to melt. For in all things, O Lord, thou didst magnify thy people and glorify them, neither didst thou lightly regard them, but didst assist them in every time and place. Wisdom, chapter 19. Well, that completes the book of Wisdom, and there Solomon was talking about the Israelites leaving Egypt and coming through the wilderness, and how God provided for them and took care of them through everything. And God will take care of us if we turn to Him, and if we repent and ask to be forgiven and ask for God to come into our lives, come into our hearts, and Jesus, and to guide us and protect us. They will do that. And in these dark days that we're in, and darker days that are coming, that will be the only protection from what's coming. And so if you haven't given your life to Jesus Christ, I highly recommend it, and start walking with Him. Start anchoring that relationship now. Get familiar with it now, before it's too late. So, I love you all, and I'm praying for you. I hope everyone has as good a week as they can, and if the world's still here, and I'm still here and able to, next week, we'll do this again. So I love you, and I'm praying for you. God bless you. Go in peace, and I will talk to you soon. Good night.